Well, the weather outside is frightful, but 3 points are so delightful. Selhurst is where we'll go with Bobby and Team Ring and Mitro. What a result for the boys in black and white. 3 points, 3 goals. Faz doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Yeah, it was a very nice day, a very surprisingly nice day all round. As you know, thousands of us in attendance at Selhurst Park yesterday. It was a great day for us, and I'm sure for people over there, Bubble and Squeak yesterday watching on Amazon Prime, it must have been pretty good too.
I just want to ask, so I unfortunately wasn't at the game yesterday, but I know you were. And how nice was it to return back? Because this is kind of unprecedented. We've never had a Winter World Cup before. How did it feel being back at watching competitive sort of domestic football?
You can tell, like, from the atmosphere pretty much from the get-go that everyone was so bloody excited to see domestic football return. The atmosphere was really good. There was lots of singing, lots of bit of a nice atmosphere and whatnot. It was just such an odd experience. You know, there's no sort of like big preseason build up. There's no sort of any sort of like big transfer news to whet the appetite. There's no sort of big new players coming and everything. There's no huge build up, but you know, it was the case of, well, Christmas is done, football is back. Barely the wrapping paper is in the recycling bin at the moment, and yet we got to hop on to start another sort of feels it's so weird. It feels like, you know, we're not even halfway through the season. You know, we're sort of like only really like a third of the way through the season. So this is like kind of like the first part of the second third of the season, and you know everyone is up for it. There was, you know, it was just such a weird experience knowing that the World Cup only finished like 10 days ago, and yet some of these players have, you know, just barely got back off the plane from there and got to launch themselves wearing a different kit and getting into it. But you know, I think the boys did themselves very proud yesterday.
Absolutely. Sitting very pretty, eighth on the table, sandwiched between Brighton and Chelsea. 22 points in. I mean, we're in an incredibly strong position. We've got Southampton on New Year's Eve coming up, who are obviously rock bottom. Another chance to get 3 points on the table. I just wanted to say, so obviously, Mitro opened the scoring for us on 32nd minute. No, sorry, it's Bobby. Incredible ball from Mitro. But in the opening passages of the game, obviously there was a red card that came a bit later on. But did you get the sense that it was our day? Or because, I mean, Ayew, of course, hit the crossbar, and you kind of think at that moment that felt like a bit of a turning point. If that goal had gone in, we'd be looking at a very different 90 minutes. But how do you think Fulham opened the game yesterday?
We were fantastic, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, I didn't think, you know, a few times this season I felt, um, you know, Fulham have been good, but the other team have been, you know, they were fine, but Fulham were just better. Yesterday felt completely different. I thought that good. They really didn't turn up, and Fulham really capitalized on that. You know, make no mistake, this was an excellent performance. They started right on the front foot. They were, you know, winning the ball back very, very effectively. They were showing their quality on the ball all over the pitch, you know, and it really highlights how good Paulinho and Harrison Reed were. The fact that, you know, someone might have been winning it in a tight area. They were playing it back to them, and they might have had two or three players around him who were trying to win it back from them, but just using their quality on the ball, just doing one touch passes out, alleviating that pressure and getting us up the field, just kept on putting the pressure on the Palace back line. And, you know, I kind of felt that we weren't creating real clear-cut chances, especially in those first 20 minutes. And that was a bit worrying me because we've been, we are guilty of that sometimes. However, as we've seen in the first part of the season, we're very good at scoring goals. You know, it was only it felt really only a matter of time before we got that opener. Yes, there was that moment when Ayew hit the bar, but you know, it felt like one-way traffic, and we, you know, it was going to take one monumental turnaround on on both sides for it not to go Fulham's way, especially after that first goal went in.
Yeah, interesting comment here from Rob saying we look the better team even when it was 11v11. Just echoing your points there, Faz. It was just a really, really solid performance. I want to talk about the red card for Mitchell. I mean, I don't think there's any debate. It was a really nasty challenge and it deserved red.
Yeah, I think when I was speaking to Jim Daly from the 5-Year Plan podcast after the game yesterday, and I think inadvertently he summed it up like why it was a red card. The fact that he didn't see it, he had followed the ball. That's how late a challenge it was. That like I didn't see it as well because I had a bloody pole in the way, so I had to wait until I saw a replay.
Thank you, Selhurst Park.
But yeah, thank you. But yeah, after seeing the replay, yeah, it was late. There wasn't a huge amount of connection, but it was late. Studs were up. I mean, it was so late. It might have well have happened today. The tackle, to be honest, it was. You can tell by the reaction of Mitchell that he was quite upset, not by the decision itself. I think he was quite upset by
just with himself,
really, and quite rightly so.
You can see the concern on his face as well for Tete. I think he was genuinely worried that he'd hurt him. And yeah, just a really nasty challenge. I don't think it was malicious. It wasn't intentional. It was just a bad tackle. Sometimes they happen. But I want to talk about the Tompkins red card. Mitro obviously was sort of through on goal, and Tompkins kind of did a no-look clothesline, is how I'd describe it, but blocked the path of Mitro, which is a yellow card offence. But I saw a few people and a few mates of mine often will message me after Mitro earns these kind of clever red cards, clever yellow cards. They say, "Oh, he's so dirty. Like, it's just gamesmanship. Like he's actually like a real cheating bastard, basically." But I think it's totally fair enough. If Mitro hadn't gone down clutching his face, there'd be no debate. It's a very clever, draw the foul and earn your team, basically seal the 3 points. We were still only 1-0 up at that point as well, let's remember. I just wanted to hear what your take on it was, because I thought it was very clever. Did he need to go down clutching his face? Arguably not. However, I think, we got 3 points in the end from it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd noticed, speaking to my brother, before that even happened, the amount of times like Tompkins would get the ball and play it back to Guaita, and Tompkins was blocking off Mitro. He'd done it like 3 or 4 times before that point, purposefully. I mean, it's clever defender play. You really just don't want to give the striker any chance to be able to close down the keeper. But I don't know whether Mitro had clocked this every single time and decided, well, next time I'm going to make an absolute meal of it. But if he did, it's clever. And we know how clever Mitro can be. He will do absolutely anything to win the game and score goals. It's not as blatant as the Douglas Luiz one against Villa, which I still think was mad that VAR decided to give that one. But Mitro made an absolute meal of that one. But this one was a bit more clear-cut. I think, Tompkins had raised his arms. It wasn't like he wasn't using his body to block him off. He raised his arms to block. And, he knows how tall Mitro is. He knows he shouldn't raise his arms to that level, and he's already on a yellow card. Why take the risk? It's simple. What was quite interesting was in Marco's post-match press conference, he mentioned how they targeted that side. They were like, well, we only they knew that Mitro was carrying this bloody ankle injury, which thankfully he was available for yesterday. So they were being smarter about how they were going to press. So they decided to, I think if I'm remembering correctly, they decided to target Tompkins more than Joachim Andersen, because probably we know how good a player Joachim Andersen is on the ball. So they probably did think that they could get at Tompkins, especially down Palace's left-hand side, where it was an awful day for Tompkins. It was an awful day for Mitchell. It was an awful day for Schlupp when he went to left back as well. And I think that just shows the level of detail of the coaching that Marco Silva and the rest of his team are doing to get the results, and it was absolutely fully deserved in the end.
Yeah, it really, really was. And it just goes to show how far we've come as a club, that we're going away to Selhurst Park and getting 3 points very, very easily. I just want to touch on Mitro because he had a phenomenal game yesterday, and it's great to see that he's carried on the form that he took into. He hasn't had any dip in form, because watching him play in the World Cup, he looked a little bit laboured, and it felt like maybe he was sort of forcing his, so he was going to play for Serbia come hell or high water. Let's face it, but he was on fire. The 2 assists, and then of course the goal, just absolutely fantastic. I want to talk about our man Tim Ream scoring his first Premier League goal as well. We have to mention that. I mean, what a finish! The reactions to the box in the box was like, seasoned striker. Who would have thought it? Tim Ream, Fox in the box. But great to see him open his Premier League account.
I mean, what a 2022 this fella has had. I mean, we know how good Tim Ream is. Like, we've seen it now since 2015. I mean, it's quite some time he's been at the club now, and we know how good he is on the ball. It is quite funny how he hasn't scored more goals for Fulham. But to be honest, it just caps off what a wonderful year he's having, and following on from off a great World Cup, fighting his way back into the USA team at 35 years old, getting into the World Cup, getting promotion with Fulham after another wonderful season, keeping his place in the team, showing the Premier League that how much he's appreciated at our club, and everyone else is now realizing what a good footballer Tim Ream is. And obviously, he's now got his admirers in Pep Guardiola as well. And, maybe January transfer window, Pep might want to have a little sniff. But, he's now missed out his chance, as he's now earned another year on his contract, and another year. I mean, I'm now hoping we now get back to he signs another year after that. We get a nice testimonial with Tim Ream.
Oh, that'd be delightful. He's definitely in testimonial territory, surely.
Surely, yeah. I mean,
what was the Pep thing? I missed that. Is he Pep
praised? I don't know if
I've never seen a clip of it.
I've not seen a clip of it, but it did the rounds for a bit, where apparently Pep went up to Tim Ream after the Man City game before Christmas and said, if you were 24, I would try to sign you in a heartbeat. Really.
Amazing.
Or he might have said that to me. Was it me or Tim Ream? I'm not sure.
After seeing some of your performances on Sunday League, Faz, I had no doubt. As I've said, you're the only one of very few players that I've seen who can take the ball down and shoot in one movement. Luis Suarez is the other one who springs to mind. That kind of. Anyway, we are live on Streamlabs. So if you have any comments, a hot take on yesterday's action, please do feel free to drop in. We've got a comment here from My Rules. Let's tell the truth. Pereira's not scoring, but is still one hell of a player and important. He looked really sharp. There was that moment in the second half where it was a really nice bit of link-up play between Mitro, got the ball to Bobby. Bobby flicked it onto Pereira, and he kind of controlled it, almost like the Simon Davies second goal against Hamburg, just in motion, and smacked the side of the post. But he's electric. He is becoming an integral part of this side. And when Carvalho left, we were thinking, oh, it's going to be one hell of a job finding someone to replace him. But I mean, I think he found his suitor.
Yeah, and I don't want to look down on Pereira, because I do agree he is an integral part of the team. He's an integral part of the system. He fits in really well. He has got a lot of quality on the ball, whether it's from open play or from dead ball situations. I mean, we've scored a hatful of corner goals, and another one yesterday, and Pereira takes a lot of those. However, I think he's quite wasteful on the ball. I was standing next to Dan Cook yesterday, and we both were looking about, we were both saying how good he is and how good he is for the team. But there is those moments where he has just amazing touches and can spin a few players. But it's amazing how much a player picks the ball up in a lot of space and likes to dribble into danger and gives the ball away or makes the wrong decision. It does taper my thoughts about him quite a fair amount. But don't get me wrong, I still think he brings a lot to this team, and I think he is quality. but he could do a lot better. And I think if it wasn't for Pereira being so wasteful yesterday, it could have been 4-5, 6-0. But I mean, I'm not complaining too much. Look, we're sitting 8th in the table. He started pretty much every game by like 1 or 2. That doesn't happen by accident, really.
Yeah, I'm Max here says, can't lie, I thought we were very wasteful in the final third. Doesn't really matter. Damage was done after the goal and red cards. On your point about Pereira being, wasteful in possession, I would much rather have that player that has the dynamism and the confidence to try and get into dangerous areas, be on the front foot and take on players if it means that they're going to be, lose it from time to time. But I do hear your point. But he's still adapting to the side. He's still developing his game. I feel like he's gonna come on leaps and bounds. We've got a question here from, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name, I'm afraid, but we'll just call this fella Photo. Does Solomon or even Wilson get in this team? I think the link up with BDR and Tete, BDR getting inside, Tete on the low black is such a strong side. I mean, it's a really good question. We saw some photos of Manor Solomon. He's back in full training. Obviously, we've got strength and depth now in this area. Farrell, what would be your preferred sort of link up?
I mean, I haven't seen Solomon enough. I mean, we've only seen him for 10 minutes. And yeah, that 10-minute cameo was pretty exciting that we had at the start of the season. We've seen a lot more of Wilson recently after his injury. I've got to say, I don't think he's hitting the heights as he did last year. We are playing at high level and whatnot, but other players have adapted quite well. I think Wilson, when he came on yesterday, was fine without doing too much. He had a couple of opportunities to have a shot, which were blocked. But I think he knows he's not hitting the heights that he should be, and we know that he's capable of. I think that will come, to be honest. But to be honest, it's going to be very difficult to get Bobby De Cordova-Reid out the team, and absolutely not taking Willian out the team, to be honest, at all. I think he's been exceptional since he came in. Just again showing amount of quality he has on the ball. Willian on the left-hand side. I don't think that's gonna change. I think Bobby again is just showing how versatile and how a high quality that he can do. There were times, especially in the second half, first half, when it was 11v11, how much he contributes going backwards and forwards. It shows the level of difference in between someone who between him and someone else who was supposed to be really good defensively and offensively in Anthony Knockaert. The difference is crazy. Bobby again getting another goal. I think it just shows how, even a player like that who was in and out the team last year and in championship seasons before that as well, that just shows that, look, if you just keep your head down, keep the work rate up, keep the professionalism, you'll always be in a chance. And I think him and Tim Ream have started every game this year. I think they're the only two that have started every game this year. I don't think many Fulham fans would have said that over the summer, that would happen.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really does echo throughout this whole team. You think of Neeskins as well before he unfortunately picked up his injury. Just it speaks volumes for the culture that we currently have at the club and have had sort of for a long time. And no, I absolutely, I think it's brilliant. It really is. We've got a question here from Wayne. Guys, where can we finish this season? Dave is suggesting Europa League spot. I mean, you have to keep reality checks here because it's very easy to get carried away. But I mean, the way that we're playing at the moment, I can't. I think top 10 is what we should be, quietly hoping for. Obviously, avoid relegation at all costs. But I think, can we start sort of looking towards up rather than down, Faz?
What's quite nice is that last night when I was watching the last two games, I was watching them and I had absolutely no sort of bias towards it. I couldn't care less what the result was because I knew that neither of them would really affect Fulham. Like, it wasn't like, I really want that team to lose because they're a relegation rival, or I want that team to win because it would affect our position and our safety within the league. None of that. I could just sit there and watch that without any sort of Fulham hat on at all whatsoever. Apart from loving Lampard losing in the last minute, that's absolutely fine. I can get on board with that. But the rest of it, like, Fulham are sitting very pretty. We're not playing catch up in the league anymore. We've got 22 points on the board. We're not even at half distance. It's fantastic. And like, when you look at yesterday's result, we now go into the New Year's Eve fixture with, again, just all that pressure off. We don't have to chase the game. It doesn't matter so much that if we draw, if we get the win, absolutely fantastic. These are all bonus points coming our way. So a draw wouldn't be that bad a result. Yeah, they're the bottom club, but we're doing the business everywhere we go, and we're competitive in every single game. The only game that I can think of that Fulham weren't in it was the Newcastle game, but that was a complete one-off, and they're sitting second in the league now. I think it shows how well this team is doing. But taper it with, this is my negative sort of Fulham hat on. I've seen it all before. I've seen Fulham completely lose it like a England's middle order in the 90s. But and I think about when Hull were fourth in the league when they first came up at Christmas, and they ended up staying up on goal difference. These things can happen. I can't see it happening unless we have like a huge injury crisis, because we haven't seen the performance levels drop at all throughout the season so far. It would be a complete turnaround. I am quite relaxed about the situation. Let's be honest.
Yeah, a very exciting 2023 we have ahead of us, and I think that's a good note to end on. Are you going to be at the Southampton game on New Year's Eve, Faz?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you?
I will indeed. Yeah, let's. We should link up beforehand, and yeah, I think that we're in a very strong position, and I mean, yeah, I'm excited for the year ahead. Thank you to everyone who joined in the comments and who watched this quick take, and yeah, we'll see you very soon.